They were laughing at my funeral, and I was standing right outside the door. They said I was a failure, that I ran away because I couldn't handle life, that I left them with nothing but shame. But none of them knew the truth. I didn't die. I disappeared. Before we go deeper, make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you're hooked already. Trust me, this story gets wilder. I watched from behind the tinted glass of my black SUV as my mother cried fake tears, holding my picture like it meant something. My brother Jake whispered something to his wife, and they both smirked. I could tell. They were just waiting to see who gets the house. My house. A week ago, I sent a single message to an old friend. Tell them I'm gone. Watch what they do. And just like I predicted, the lies, the greed, the backstabbing, it all exploded within days. They never cared about me when I was alive. When I lost my job after Dad died, they told me I was a disgrace. Mum said I brought shame to the family. Jake told everyone I was addicted to failure. I stopped showing up at dinners. Nobody called. Nobody checked in. And then I vanished. What they didn't know was that I wasn't hiding. I was building, in silence. For 4 straight years, I worked like a ghost. No updates, no social media, no family contact. I moved to another city, lived in a rented basement, and turned my coding skills into a tech platform that's now valued at $48 million. And now, here I was, wearing a tailored suit, holding the one envelope that would turn their fake tears into frozen stares. But I wasn't going to walk in just yet. I wanted to wait for the priest to say that final line, "May he rest in peace," because that's when I'd walk in and crush every lie they ever told about me. The priest's voice echoed in the small chapel, his words drifting over the crowd like a soft, mocking breeze. May he rest in peace. That's when I pushed the door open. The sound of my footsteps was loud, too loud. Every eye in the room snapped to me, some wide with shock, others filled with disbelief. There I was, standing at the entrance, dressed in a sleek black suit, my face the image of a man who'd been reborn. The room went dead, silent. Then, my mother's face turned a shade of white I've never seen. Jake's eyes bulged, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. The funeral director, the one who'd prepared my body for the casket, just stood frozen. "Oh, what are you doing here?" my mom whispered, the tears she had shed earlier, now turning into pure confusion. She looked like she might faint. Jake, always the one to cover up his nerves with arrogance, laughed awkwardly. This is a joke, right? He was trying to act like he wasn't completely shaken, but I could see the sweat trickling down his temple. He knew this wasn't a joke. I didn't answer them immediately. Instead, I reached into my pocket and pulled out an envelope. Slowly, I walked up to the podium where my picture still stood, the one they'd put there like a memorial of failure. I turned to face the entire room. "I'm not dead," I said calmly, my voice steady, "but I know what you all did." "And what?" "You were planning." My mother stumbled back a few steps, the air in the room thick with shock. My cousin Carla, who'd always whispered behind my back, finally spoke up. "What the hell are you talking about? Are you trying to ruin everything?" I held up the envelope in front of everyone. "This is for all of you," I said, throwing it down onto the cold marble podium. A little reminder of what happens when you underestimate someone. The air was suffocating now, heavy with the pressure of a moment that none of them had prepared for. Jake stepped forward, but he didn't have his usual bravado. His voice cracked. "What do you want, huh? We were just trying to get through this funeral, and now you show up with your whatever this is?" My lips curled into a small, cold smile. You think I'm here for you? I could see the shame, the greed, and the panic on their faces. They had no idea what I had in store, but they would. The real fun was just beginning. I could hear my heart pounding in my chest, but on the outside, I was calm, too calm. I let them squirm for a few more seconds before I spoke again. No, Jake, I said, taking a slow, deliberate step toward him. I'm not here for you. I'm here to show you how much of a joke your life really is. The room was eerily still. No one dared to move. My mother, who had always prided herself on keeping up appearances, looked like she'd just seen a ghost. Carla was busy checking her phone, probably trying to find some excuse to leave, but her eyes kept darting back to me. I finally broke the silence. You think I disappeared because I couldn't handle life? I chuckled, the sound bitter and harsh. No, I disappeared because I wanted to build something that would make you regret every cruel word you ever said about me. Jake, still trying to maintain control, stepped up and scoffed. What? You think you've got some big secret? Like you're some sort of genius now? I didn't answer. Instead, I pulled out my phone, unlocked it, and handed it to him. The screen lit up with the name of my company in bold letters. I had set up a live feed of my bank account balance and company evaluation for all to see. 48 million flashed on the screen. It was a statement, a truth they couldn't deny. Jake's eyes widened and he staggered back. This can't be real. You've been hiding this from us? I turned to look at my mother, whose face had turned an unsettling shade of green. Remember when you said I'd never amount to anything? When you told everyone I was a failure? I think this number proves otherwise, don't you think? She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. And about the house, I continued, my voice colder than I had ever heard it before. It's already in my name. You know, the one you thought you were going to sell for your new life. Yeah, not happening. The look on their faces was priceless. Pure horror, mixed with a dash of greed. They'd been planning to take everything from me. All along, they thought I was dead, just a lost soul they could ignore. But now, here I was, richer than all of them, and they couldn't do a damn thing about it. You should have treated me better, I said quietly, my eyes scanning the room. But you didn't. Now you'll watch as I take everything you thought you could have. I turned to leave, but my mother's shaky voice stopped me. Wait, what do you want from us? I smiled. Oh, I'm not here for your money or your approval. I'm here because I want you to feel what I felt. To know that every time you spoke down to me, every time you mocked me, you made me stronger. And now it's time for you to watch as I own everything you ever wanted. As I stepped out of the room, the sounds of their panicked whispers and pleading voices followed me. But I didn't care. I had already won. I could hear the chaos from outside the door as I stood on the steps of the chapel. My chest was still tight, but there was a rush of adrenaline coursing through my veins. It felt like I had just set the stage for a grand performance, and the curtain had barely risen. The phone buzzed in my pocket, pulling me out of my thoughts. I glanced down at the screen. Investor meeting. 10 minutes. I smiled. This was the moment I had been waiting for. But even as I prepared to head out, my mind couldn't escape the image of their faces. The disbelief, the horror, the guilt. My mother, Jake, Carla. All of them had underestimated me. They thought I was weak. They thought I was invisible, but I wasn't, and the world was about to find out. I stepped into my car and called my lawyer. Make sure the deed is finalized today. It's time for them to understand that they no longer control anything. As I hung up, a part of me wondered if I had gone too far. But then I remembered the years of silence, The years of being ignored, mocked, and discarded. I wasn't doing this for revenge anymore. This was about taking back what was always mine. I arrived at the meeting in record time. The investor, a man I had never met in person but had been in negotiations with for months, greeted me with a firm handshake. He knew exactly who I was. And now he was about to find out how much more powerful I was than he ever imagined. "Good to finally meet you," he said, his eyes scanning me. He was a sharp man, a businessman who had seen it all. But even he couldn't hide his surprise when I handed him my company's valuation report. "You've done all this?" he asked, clearly impressed, but trying not to show it too much. I nodded, leaning in. "It's more than just about money," I said, my voice calm but firm. "It's about power, and I'm offering you a seat at the table. But I don't make deals with people who underestimate me. So, if you're in, you better be ready to change the game." His eyes flickered between me and the documents I had placed in front of him. His fingers hovered over the pen, and for a second, I could almost see the wheels turning in his head. He wasn't sure if he could trust me, or if he should walk away. But then he signed, and just like that, everything I had worked for, all the silence, all the struggle, it was all paying off. The ink wasn't even dry on the contract when I received another call. It was from my mother. "Please, you can't do this," she begged. "You're destroying everything. Your father would be ashamed." I didn't pick up. Instead, I leaned back in my chair, savoring the moment. Everything had changed, but it wasn't over yet. The next move, it would blow them away. I sat there in my sleek office, watching the evening sun cast long shadows across the polished wood floors. The air smelled faintly of fresh coffee and success, but there was still a simmering heat inside me. The phone call with my mother lingered in my mind. "You're destroying everything. Your father would be ashamed." Her words cut deep, but only because they were laced with something I knew all too well: guilt. Guilt for what? For not fitting into her world, for not being who she wanted me to be. No, that was her problem, not mine. The silence in the office felt comforting, like I was finally in control of my own life. I had the money, the company, the power. I had everything they thought I would never have. But there was still one thing left to do, something to make them understand that I wasn't just a ghost. I wasn't someone they could push aside and forget. I wasn't just a disappointment. I was their nightmare. I picked up my phone, dialing a number I hadn't called in years. "Jenna," I said when the line picked up. "I need your help." Jenna had been a colleague back when I first started my tech company. She was one of the few people who never doubted me. She'd seen the grind, the sleepless nights, the hustle, and she'd never once said a word of mockery or pity. She had believed in me when no one else did. "What's going on?" Her voice was calm, but I could hear the curiosity beneath the surface. "I need you to get in touch with my mother and Jake," I said, leaning back in my chair. "And I need you to arrange a meeting with them. You know where. Make sure it's soon." "Why?" she asked, though I could tell she was already on board. Jenna always understood when it was time to take action. "Because they need to see the truth. I'm not just some failure. I'm not just the guy they buried. I'm the one holding all the cards now." I hung up, a slow smile creeping across my face. The next few days were a blur. I had a meeting with investors, finalizing my deal to expand the company. Things were moving fast, faster than I had ever expected, but I was still thinking about that meeting I had set up, the one with my family. It was time for the final reveal. The day arrived, and I could already feel the tension in the air. I had asked Jenna to meet my mother and Jake at the house they thought they were going to take over once I was dead. As I drove to the address, the familiar neighborhood seemed so small now. It wasn't the same place it had once been. The house that had once been filled with judgment and disappointment was now just a shell of my past. I stepped into the living room where my mother and Jake sat across from each other. They looked as if they had just been discussing something. Probably me. They didn't expect me to be here. Not in the flesh, and certainly not with the kind of power I was about to show them. My mother looked up first, her face pale, her eyes wide. Jake's jaw dropped. You're real?" my mother whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't say anything. Instead, I pulled out a folder from my briefcase and placed it down on the coffee table between us. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on me, the air thick with everything unsaid. "This," I began slowly, my eyes never leaving theirs, "is the deed to the house. It's already in my name." Jake stood up quickly, his face turning red. "You can't do this. This is our house. You were dead, remember? This was supposed to be ours." I kept my voice steady, unwavering. "No, this was always mine. But you both thought I was just some failure. You thought I couldn't handle life. You thought I was nothing." My mother opened her mouth to protest, but I held up a hand. "And that's not all. I've already liquidated some of the assets in your names. Investments, properties, all of it. You won't be seeing a dime. I'm putting everything into a trust fund. For myself." Jake's face twisted with rage. But I wasn't done. "But here's the thing," I continued. "You've always treated me like I wasn't good enough. Like I was some sort of burden. So now I'm going to give you a front row seat to watch me live the life you never thought I would have. You're going to watch me succeed while you sit here, stuck in your lies and your greed." I watched as they both looked at each other, their eyes wide in disbelief. For the first time, they were the ones who felt powerless. They were the ones who realized they had lost everything. "You're going to regret this," Jake hissed, his fists clenched at his sides. "No," I said, my voice cool and final. "You're the ones who are going to regret thinking I was nothing." I turned and walked out of the room, my heart pounding, but with a satisfaction I hadn't felt before. I was leaving behind the past, the family, the judgment, the expectations. Everything they had taken from me, I had now taken back. As I stepped outside, the weight of what I had just done began to settle in. This wasn't just about money or power. This was about proving to myself that I was enough. And as I drove away, I couldn't help but smile, because in that moment, I knew I had already won.